Hi, Kiris. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Let me know if you're able to hear me. Hi, Auntie Ermin. Hi, Kiris. Hi, Kelsey. I'm seeing Shane. Can you guys hear me clearly? Can you give me a thumbs up or say if you're able to hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is College Check-In. My name is Rolando Smith, and this is episode 2 in our series of College Check-In. I want to just check to make sure that you guys are able to hear me clearly. Hi, Kiris. I'm seeing the hands from Kiris. All right, just send me a thumbs up if you guys. All right, there we go. Hi, welcome to College Check-In. All right, so this is actually episode 2 of College Check-In. My name is Rolando Smith, and it is my pleasure and my privilege to have you all on board tonight. I'm very excited about this. We have a very interesting show lined up. We have some of what we call our Grace Baptist Church babies who have all grown up and they are actually studying, they're booming in their careers, and they have actually decided to take it upon themselves to actually study abroad. So we're going to be talking to them to find out, some of the ins and outs, some of the tips and some of the tricks that they actually employed in order to be able to successful in terms of studying abroad. All right. So I just want to welcome all of you on board. I see 12 people on the live right now. That's very good. And I think that other persons are going to be joining us as time goes by. Just a quick little disclaimer, if by any chance, ladies and gentlemen, because this is how it is, the internet is unstable in this day and age. If we get disconnected, just do me a little favor, please, and just hop on the live again. All right. So welcome to all of you. I'm seeing all of you sending me a thumbs up and sending me your waves. Good to see you all. All right. Just a little bit about College Check-In. This is a new series that's put on by the Grace Independent Baptist Church. We're an independent Baptist church in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, Jerusalem Housing Scheme. Big up to everybody from St. Elizabeth. And this is a new series geared towards preparing young people who are going out into college to help them to know what it is that they are actually getting themselves into. A lot of us can relate to this. We were thrown into college and we actually had to sink or swim. But now, if we can use this avenue or this platform to get persons to be familiar with what it is that they can expect, that is what we really want to do here tonight. So again, Kelsey said, bap bap. Hello, Tyreek. I'm seeing you. Hi, Deidre. All right, I'm seeing everybody jumping in now. So that is basically the essence of College Check-In, and we are going to do just that. All right. So this evening we have 4 young people, and I'm going to ask you to just send some clap hand emojis in the chat right now because we're going to be welcoming them on the virtual stage at this time. I'm going to be interviewing them in pairs. So I'm going to actually be starting with Dr. You have to put some respect on the name there. I know this little girl from just come out of the womb. Dr. Kiris Foster is going to be joining us, and we're also going to be joined by Mr. Shane Williams. All right, so let's welcome them while I try to work out how to operate this contraption. And now let me see. So I'm going to be inviting. All right, so I'm seeing Shane there. I'm going to send him an invite and looking for Dr. Foster. So they should be joining us anytime soon. Hi, Karis.
Hi, good night.
Good night, Mr. Williams.
Hi,
Yo,
Shane.
Yeah, you have a salute them people here, Salute. What's up?
yeah, been a while.
Good, good. You guys can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good, good, good. All right, so we have Dr. Foster, who actually studied at ANU Medic. Did I pronounce that right, Curious?
Anhui, yes.
Anhui Medical University, all the way over there in China. And we also have Mr. Shane Williams, our aeronautical specialist who studied in
Hey,
the.
man.
You can correct me, correct me, correct
No,
me.
no, it's all right. It's all right.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, so good. All right, so we're going to be talking to both of you just to get some tips and some tricks that you can share with our young people who are actually joining us now, so you can tell us a little about what the experience was like. Let me start with you, Kiris.
Okay.
All right, so obviously you're a medical doctor, and persons would probably ask Kiris, then they know the medicine out here in Jamaica. Why she have to go all the way over China? When them speak Mandarin and all these different languages,
Right.
what was the thought process like when you were deciding to study medicine in China?
Okay, so personally, this making the decision to study medicine overseas came down to me really just not feeling like the University of the West Indies was for me. It came down to
No shade.
honestly, zero shade. But
I'm
when you
joking,
think
yeah.
about where you want to spend five,
Yeah,
6 years out of your life, you don't want to spend
yeah,
it in an environment that makes you feel as though you can't wait to leave. And when I
yeah.
envisioned myself at the University of the West Indies, that's how I felt. I felt like I would be
Hmm.
trapped. I felt like it just wasn't for me. And
Yeah,
I felt like I did not want to spend my early 20s feeling like I can't wait to get out. I felt like that's just not what the university experience should be like. And yes,
right.
you're spending it in university and you're spending it trying to earn a degree, but at the end of the day, that's still 5 years of your life. And
Yes,
you
true,
just
true.
don't
But you
want to
can't take
spend it.
back. True, true.
Exactly.
Okay.
You just don't want to spend that somewhere where you're not fully enjoying yourself.
So, question curious. Before we get to China,
Right.
based on everything that you said, did any of your friends who studied medicine locally here at
Hmm.
UWI, did they confirm any of your suspicions?
So I didn't really know anyone that was studying medicine at the university at that time, at UWI
Yeah.
at that time, but I knew a few persons that had already attended the University of the West Indies. And
Okay.
they described their experiences as being okay, fair for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
Some persons genuinely didn't like their experience there, others
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
So it was a
Hmm.
mixed response when I had inquired, but I just knew within myself the University of the West Indies wasn't for me.
Wasn't for you. So was
Yeah.
the Chinese university for you?
So the thing is,
Talk to us. Talk to us.
I ended up choosing
Right.
that university on a whim, completely
Okay.
spontaneously. A friend of
Yeah.
mine was looking at the university online, trying to decide whether or not she wanted to go there because she
Yeah.
hadn't exactly been accepted for medicine at UWI just yet. So she
Hmm.
wanted other options. She told me about it. She brought it to the table, showed all of us that were sitting there, and I decided, okay, this sounds like an experience. Foreign
Yes.
country, new language, new people, new culture. Let me have a look at it. And I
Hmm.
remember sitting under that tree at the sixth form block and just saying to myself, well, seems like a good enough deal. So I guess that's where I'll be going. And that was it.
That was it. Okay, so I'm going to get into if you had any regrets. I'm coming to you. All right, so I'm going to
Okay.
hop over to Mr. Williams. So Shane,
Yes,
your
ma'am.
your story may be a little bit different because whereas Curious had the option of studying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, is it a situation where here in Jamaica you didn't really have that option, so you definitely had to go overseas? All right, so
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
so what was your experience like? First of all, remind us of the university that you went to. The
So,
last one,
so
yeah, or both, yeah.
yeah. So initially, when I left for Florida Tech, and I was to do a aerospace engineering degree, and that's not offered in Jamaica or in the Caribbean at all. The closest you get is mechanical, right? So,
Okay,
initially, my backup was Trinidad for mechanical or UTech.
all right.
But the like the little 2-year-old dream in me just couldn't give up the aviation thing.
Yes,
So
yes.
I my work every angle me could I get for try
Okay,
see if me can get into aeronautical university. So Florida Tech, let me give me a good package, a good deal, a good offer. It was a lot of last minute stuff, which is part of my regret.
yeah,
But you just have to go chasing after that dream, and that's life. So
yeah.
honestly, when we used to come home and go UA go visit my friend, and we actually did feel a way because and they kind of want their chance with all of the
With
rich in
all of
them.
them, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause it's a
but
Monroe
yeah,
tradition to go to Chancellor.
right,
Well,
right,
except for
for
me,
real.
but yeah, that's another story.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So for me, it was more of like not the the best options to stay home
Yeah.
for pursuit.
Okay, and then you would have completed that degree, Shane, and then you went to do another degree. Was it a master's degree at Embry-Riddle? Just walk us
Yeah,
through. Yeah.
so the masters in Emerald, like kind of like pushing the envelope with aviation, right? So more kind
Right.
of expand the scope. So I did the whole unmanned aerial system, so the drones essentially, and
Okay.
Yeah, so Embry-Riddle is one of the premier universities for aeronautics in the world, not just in the US. And
Yes, yes, yes.
just like them, I couldn't pass up the opportunity, especially them. They have a good program with tie in with my career, so I could work while going to school. So yeah.
Okay, forgive the St. Elizabethan in me now, but as we get straight to it, you can fly
Right.
plane and everything and them thing, they know. That's how it go.
Yes, boss. I can, but that's not my primary job, right? It's
Okay,
not my primary job, but I
that's
can.
but you
I
can.
did do my flight training, but not my primary job. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. These are two young people who grew up in our hands, dedicated in a church, everything, and they actually are booming in their careers right there now. So, a product of the Grace Baptist Youth Fellowship. On a big up on yourself, Jim. Very good. So, I want to hear from both of you now. So we've spoken about how it is that you got to study at your respective universities. I want to hear about the culture shock. Before we even talk about what is the stress that you actually underwent at the university, what were the various things that would have shocked you? Kiris, let's start with you. Dr. Foster, let's start with you.
Wow. I guess going to China with regards to culture shock,
Yeah.
probably, honestly, I'm going to say I had a very open mind. I don't think
Hmm.
I received the culture necessarily. I don't think it took me that long to assimilate to the culture. But probably, of course, the major thing is food because that's something that you have to, it's either you're going to get used to it from the get-go, it's going to take you 10 days for some people. Some people it took 3 years. Some people still
Yes,
don't like the
yes,
food. And it's such a major part of your everyday life, right? So it's
yes.
like it's either you're cooking your own food or you're experiencing the culture through food on a daily
Hmm.
basis. And I think that for the most part, as well as the shock that they experienced in seeing black people was very unnerving at first, very bewildering, and kind
Yeah.
of how can you not know what a black person looks like kind of situation. So that was probably, in terms of other aspects of the culture with regards to their traditions and their mannerisms and all of that, those were very easily assimilated to, but just how were how they received us, not everyone, not all of them,
Hmm.
and the food. That's it. Biggest aspect.
Okay, and the food.
But
All
I
right,
do love
Shane.
their food. I do.
Okay, okay.
No,
No, you appreciate it now.
I
Yeah,
do.
Shane, what about you?
So my experience is a little different because the good thing is Florida Tech did have quite a few internationals and actually quite a few Monroonians too. They might
Right.
never in a my year group, but they were like within 6 years of me. So it's like you kind of find your group and find your people and you kind of stick with
Like a
them.
little family, like, yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then honestly we realized based on culture with Africans we kinda share a lot of similarities. So we kinda gel with a lot of Africans as well. So we kinda assimilate to them for them culture more so than honestly the US culture. So the
Right.
school offered a lot of international students opportunities to pursue, like a tertiary level education. So because of that, like I feel like assimilating to the US culture itself was not like as much of a priority for me as much as just getting immersed in the other international students, which did kind of make it a lot easier.
Okay, good. All right, so guys,
Mm.
we want to talk about something more practical when you're actually at the university, okay? Because a lot of young people are watching. Some persons have completed their first degrees and they want to study abroad for their second degree. And some of the young people are looking to leave high school and to study abroad or even locally. I want you to practically tell us of a tough day or situation that you faced in your study. Like some really challenging times when you were really on your face, one, and then how did you overcome it? So we're speaking particularly to that one thing that you can remember and how you overcame that, and then later I'll talk about some tips that you can share with the young people about how to overcome the stresses that they have. So not to confuse you, let's go back. The first question is, what did say again? Yes, I was asking you, how is it that what's one particular situation that you remember that you were stressed out about, on your face, crying, depressed, the works, and how did you eventually overcome it? Hi, Makisha. Yeah.
Okay.
Shane, let's start with you, and then let's go to.
Uh, So I
Dr.
think
Foster.
mine did come in on my senior year. So we have this design project we have to do, and you have to do it in a group, and it impending on you graduating. If you don't finish
Mm-hmm.
the design project, then you're not a graduate.
Yeah.
And one of the things we learned was like trying to work with other people in a group, especially when it becomes like something that important, was one of
Yes,
the
you
hardest things to do. One of
group
the
work.
hardest, like, and then you have people who now pull them weight and kind of bring the group down. And then you juggle that on top of like we did work on campus at the same time. So
Okay.
because you know the Jamaican exchange rate and the US not really too wonderful. So you have to find something for them to like put money in your pocket. So you work on campus, you deal with academic stress, you deal with work stuff. And then at the same time it was my senior year, so now I look forward to like what am I gonna do career wise afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, look outside of school. So during that time it was like the last semester, so it is seriously rough because the day to day was just like every day was a different problem. If it wasn't a senior design issue with somebody not did the paper, or not did the research, or not put in the effort, then yeah, I figure out work, and then also yeah, look into where the next internship will come, where
Mm-hmm.
the different stuff, so you can secure like a position afterwards. So for me, that was the toughest part was my senior year. The freshman year also is tricky, but tricky in the sense that it wasn't tough, but it
Yeah.
was more so if you know take freshman year serious, you can really set yourself back
Mm-hmm.
through the 4 years. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that, Shane. There's some things that he mentioned that I just want to pull out for, especially those of you who are looking to study abroad. So, number one, he said there was a challenge of actually working with persons. The group work, something there, and I'm sure all of you who are here on the live and who you've gone to school, you've gone to university, you can actually relate to this. It's kind of challenging, and you have to know how to actually work with the dynamics of the different personalities, the personality types, even the ethnicities in your case. So that was a challenge for him. And also, he also mentioned that he had to actually work on campus. So that's something that some of you can actually look forward to. When you start university, I don't know, pretty boy or pretty girl thing, sometimes you actually have to do what it is that you can actually do to help yourself and to help your family. All right. Now, I'm not saying that you must go up there and work, but in his case, that's what he did. And some of us actually had to do the same thing as well. All right. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Karis Foster and Mr. Shane Williams, and they're talking about their experience studying at university. So we're going to hear from Karis now about that specific challenging moment that she had while she was there, all the way in China.
Okay, I think the toughest moment for me came in third year.
Mm,
It was the second semester, and we had that semester, I think we had over 10 subjects in one semester. And the exams were coming up. It was around the exam season. And it was tough for me, challenging for me, because I'm midway through. The whole program is 6 years. So I'm practically halfway through the program, and I'm under this amount of stress, and I'm saying to myself, is this something I really want to do? But you're kind of too far gone to say you're going to quit, but not
mm-hmm,
yet there where you're saying to yourself, maybe I could quit and start over. But then you
mm-hmm.
don't want to quit because you're that far gone and you feel like you can't quit. So
Yes,
it's
yes,
like a
yes.
constant back and forth. Like, I can't see where this is going to get better,
Yeah,
but I've already come this far.
this far.
And
Mm,
so for me, that moment I think was the most challenging. Third year was definitely the roughest year for me.
mm-hmm,
You're so far away from your family naturally. It's not like you can just run back to mommy and daddy. All you can do is talk to them over the phone, but there's no actual physical support from them. Emotionally, they're
mm-hmm.
there, but sometimes you just want a hug from your parents. You
Yes,
just
yeah,
want to be in their
definitely.
presence. You just want to be home, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
easily accessible, and that for me was definitely the most challenging. With regard, yeah,
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go
okay.
ahead.
With regards to overcoming it, it came to a point where I guess it really comes down to two choices, and neither one of them are bad per se. One of them is, will you be disciplined enough to see through what you actually started?
You knew when
You
I say
made
a
this decision.
word. Yeah,
You made,
discipline,
you
definitely.
have to kind of remind yourself that you made a decision to start something like this when you were free of this stress, but you were expecting this stress. So you
Mm-hmm.
made this decision with a clear mind, and now you're in this position, you're filled with a lot of emotions, you're filled with a lot of stress, and it's easier to make the decision to opt out. But
Yeah.
don't forget the decision you made when when you could see what the outcome would be from afar, but you were still expecting the hardships. So don't forget that, this is a decision you made for yourself, and you can be disciplined enough to see yourself through to the end. Or there's the other side of the coin that I think is you can be brave enough to realize that you thought this was for you and it's actually not. And you are completely free to start over. And
Free
it's
to
never
start
too
over.
late. You're free. It's never
Wow.
too late to decide that this is not for me. I would be better suited somewhere else. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And either
Can I
one is
just
fine.
Can I just ask the persons in the chat to just send up some clap and emojis for our two panelists of it? Them are going with a bag of things tonight. I'm so impressed, especially with the wise words of wisdom and nuggets that they're actually imparting. The idea of discipline came out from both of the panelists. You have to recognize that the stress, the challenges are going to be inevitable, but you have to actually remember why it is that you were there in the first place.
Right.
And something that she also shared was that if it is you realize that this is not for you, do not give up. She didn't say give up. She said that you can actually go back to the drawing board, start over, meaning find something else that would be good for you, that would actually work in your favor. All right, so this is only a 1 hour show. I wish I could talk to you guys forever and ever, amen. But I'm just gonna ask you guys to just share some, well, you basically just shared some tips a while ago. But I just want you to describe your studying abroad experience in 5 words. I had to leave you with that challenge. Come on, remember it. You know how it is. So your experience studying abroad in 5 words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you didn't see this one coming.
I have my first word.
You have your first word?
It was adventurous.
Adventurous. Good.
Oh, wow. All right, I'll pass it to Shane for his first word. And then come back to
Mine is plan. Like the first one, plan, like a proper plan all day,
Yeah.
every day. Make sure you have a straight up 4-year plan. Like it's not like just come and wing it. You have a goal in mind and you plan accordingly. And then with that you can add vigilance. So you have to keep striving for it. You have to push.
And
So
Shane, we're talking about planning in terms of knowing how it is that you're going to matriculate from 1 year to the next.
right.
Planning in
Well,
terms
even
of you.
right, not just the classes on your
Yeah.
day-to-day basis, your outside of classes stuff, and even what you're going to do after you finish the degree. Because it's a huge factor. You can't
What he
start
said.
thinking about
Yeah.
that at senior
At the
year. That
end.
was one of my biggest issues was come senior year, me's like, oh, we need to start looking to career stuff. No, you have to start do that from early, especially with us coming from another country.
Yeah.
You have to start from like first year because you have a harder struggle to get into the industry, and it no matter what industry you're trying.
Just following up on that, did they actually assist you with that by any chance? I know you expressed that it's harder for us, but no little
You don't
career planning sessions,
honestly,
workshops.
honestly, it might depend on which school you go to, but for most schools, it's very vague. They give you the general information, but you have to go out there and see it. Like you have to go out there and try to build a life after school. Or some people, I know quite a few people who do undergrad with me and then end up after like Kerry said, go back to the drawing board, go home, recalibrate to something else and figure it out
Okay.
from there. So yeah, that's my thing is like plan, have a really good plan. Like think
Okay.
about it. Don't just wing it.
Good. Come the rest of the 4 words, and then I'll get you with it. You see them try to talk them way over tight a while ago. Come on, the rest of the 4 words. So we have
All right, so
plan, we had adventurous. What's your
my
second word,
second
Kiri?
word would probably be friendships.
Friendships, yeah.
When you're studying abroad, the circle that you have is super important.
Yes.
You have to surround yourself with persons that aren't pessimistic, because it's an environment that you can easily foster negative thoughts in,
And
negative
toxicity,
emotions,
yeah. True,
and the
true.
toxicity can be real. So
Yeah.
your circle of friends, super important. It's also easy to get carried away living abroad. You're away from home, you're free. It's your lifestyle, it's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're on your own, no one breathing down your
Mm-hmm.
neck. Are
Yeah.
your friends the
Yeah.
type of friends that will watch you going astray, watch you forget what you came here to achieve? Or are your
Mm-hmm.
friends the type of friends to say, hey, we kind of have an exam tomorrow, and I notice you're just
Yeah.
here chilling. Are you gonna study so that your mother's money doesn't go to waste, or are you just gonna, you
Right.
know?
Right. Just party
So
the
I
night
think
away.
friendships super important. The friendships that you make, the friendships that are lost and or severed for better reasons,
Mm-hmm.
the friendships are super important.
All right. Just breeze through your rest of words, and then I go over to
I don't
Shane.
have my other three.
You don't have any more. It's okay. It's not an exam, so I'm not stress you. This is a 1 hour show after all. Thank you, Kira. So you said adventurous and you had friends. And Shane said
Yeah.
plan. And then what's your next
But
word, Shane? We can leave it at
plan,
two.
but I said vigilance, so drive
Yeah.
and motivation. Make sure you keep that. You always
Good.
want to keep that behind it. Because that's a good push.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And on behalf of Grace Baptist Church generally, and on behalf of the executive of Grace Youth Ministries, we want to tell both of you how much we are actually proud of you and want to thank you so much. And I'm sure the young people are looking up to you, aspiring to be like you, in a sense. I don't know if that comes with any amount of pressure, but it really shows that you guys are really good role models. And I want to commend you, congratulate you, and of course, anytime you feel like shouting, um, anytime you feel like passing on words of encouragement to our younger persons, feel free to be that kind of mentor. We really appreciate it. I want to thank you for joining us. And if you may, you can stick around because some of the persons who are on the live may have questions. So if you want to just stick around, if you don't have anything, you don't have anything on the ward tonight, right, Doc?
No.
No, nothing, Shane. All right,
No,
good.
no,
So you
no,
can
no, good, yeah.
you can stick and stay with us, all right? While I
All
bring on
right.
our next two panelists. Thank you so very much, guys. Really good to see you again, Shane. Good to see you again. It's been years.
Yeah,
I've
boss.
been still with them man here, All right, and Dr. Foster, of course, our dear Kiris. Thank you so very
All
much. All
right.
right,
Thank you so much for having me.
All
no
Bye.
right.
problem. All right,
Appreciate it.
all right. How you exit this now? Well, I guess they will exit. Okay, so aren't you proud of them, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, we have to show our appreciation for Dr. Kiris Foster and, of course, Shane Williams. Both of them actually studied abroad and they shared some wise nuggets, of course, talking about the challenges, the importance of discipline, the importance of having accountable friends, because everybody's our friend in this day and age with social media, but we want to have friends and persons who we can look to, that will keep us accountable. And of course, they actually shared with us how it is that we can actually do that. All right, so I want to thank them so much. All right, so without further ado, before Instagram kicks us out of here, I'm going to be inviting our next two panelists. I am seeing one, but I am not seeing the other. She was here earlier. Sister Shelly, where you going? All right, so I'm going to bring on Hope Ton. Are you there? All right, so I'm going to try to add him again. Oh, there we go.
Dr. Smith,
There's
Dr.
my
Smith,
twin. There's my twin.
Dr.
Rochelle,
Smith, how are you?
I am good. I am good. Rochelle is supposed to actually be joining us. Shelly,
Okay.
can you actually send me let me see if I can bring her on still, because it's showing me that it's unable to, I'm not able to connect her. I don't know why that is so.
Okay.
All right, Rochelle, can you try to send me an invitation, please, so that I can add you that way? I don't know if it's possible, because I'm seeing her on the list, but it's saying that she's unable to join. I don't know why. All right,
Okay.
so we're going to talk to Mr. Hopeton Allen. All right, how you doing, boss?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? How you
I'm
been?
good. I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, Mr. Allen and I, we grew up, of course, in Grace Baptist Church. We couldn't go to any rally or anything like that without persons thinking that we were twins or related. All right,
I
so it's
know,
good to
right?
see you. Yeah, man.
Yes,
Now,
definitely.
Upton, your situation is a little different from the two panelists that we had earlier because you had
Okay.
migrated to the United States a
Mm-hmm.
few years before you actually
Yeah.
started college, right?
Correct.
So, unlike our two panelists who actually left Jamaica and they went to study abroad, you were able to be immersed in the culture of the United States somewhat.
Correct.
Take me back to that transition before we talk about um,
So,
university. What was that like for you, the transition
so
from
for
Jamaica
me,
to
I had a thick, very thick. My accent is still there. Very thick, thick accent.
accent? Yeah,
Yes, which still, of course, comes out still there,
the
and
Hanover meets
the
St. Elizabeth accent.
the correct combined together, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was something I had to overcome. A lot of my friends in middle school, and because I came when I was actually in middle school, I think that could have been what, seventh grade in Jamaica, I believe,
Middle school, I guess. I think so. Yes,
around
yes.
seventh, sixth grade, I
Seven
guess, in
to
Jamaica.
nine. Yeah, yeah. Oh, middle
So
school,
I
you said. Oh,
came.
that's nice.
So for me, I came when I was in middle school, my last year
Yeah.
of middle school. So that, and then I went to, of course, to high school, Harris Truman High, go Mustang, and then I went to college. So my high school experience was different because I think a lot of my friends or a lot of people within my high school, we were Caribbean descent, right? My middle school
Yes.
also, we were from Caribbean descent. So it was a melting pot. Where I came was a very much melting pot. So we were exposed to a lot of different cultures, different
Mm-hmm.
races, different backgrounds, sexual orientation, creed, gender. So it
Mm-hmm.
became something where it was much easier for me, I guess, to become into the culture. Best easy transition for me coming from
That
Jamaica to
okay.
New York City to the Bronx. You
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of different Caribbean cultures, so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as hard to transition.
So then that means that transitioning to university wasn't a major challenge for you either.
Correct, because when you're in high school, you're geared, or majority some of the classes you take are geared towards getting college ready, right?
You
So
see,
you're
that's what we have.
prepared.
That's what's missing from our curriculum here in
Okay,
Jamaica, I must say.
got it.
Yeah, yeah.
So the curriculum here was geared towards getting ready for college, of course, and of course you have other people around you, friends, advisors, mentors,
Mm-hmm.
parents who are strict, especially if your parents are from a Caribbean culture. They're
Mm-hmm.
geared towards, hey, what me not have, you can get, kind of thing.
Yes, yeah,
You know,
yes,
you come
yeah.
up far, you're not gonna waste the time. You go to college, get an education, and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm from the Pummels household, which that plays no games. And if everyone knows, the Pummels and Allen household plays no games in education. So I had no
So what the
choice.
descendants are actually here tonight. Your Auntie Stacy and I just saw Miss Grace Baptist as well.
See?
Deidre. So they're actually here in the house. Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah.
transitioning to college became something that you were immersed into. So you had college tours, you had recruiters who came on your campus, on your high school campus. You have different overnight stay that you're able to go to different campuses and see. And then some churches up here, they actually bring you on college tours too. So you have a lot of different avenues to gears you towards getting ready for college.
So, all right, Hopeton. So,
Hmm.
let me just backtrack on something that I said earlier. I said that that's something that's missing from our curriculum. I just want
Hmm.
to correct myself so that I don't get in trouble with the Ministry of Education. It is
Correct.
there, but maybe not to the extent that you
Same.
guys have it over there. So, my question
Correct.
then is, what would you advise the natives that are here in
Hmm.
Jamaica? They want to study abroad, but they're not as privy to all of those different avenues that you were exposed to. They're not able to do the on-campus visits, the career talks in high
Hmm.
in your high school system. What would you advise them to do
So
in order to
one of the
prepare to
great things,
transition to
correct.
good?
One of the great things now that we have is this virtual world, right?
Yeah,
And being
yeah.
a virtual environment where we're able to connect with other individuals from across the globe,
Hmm.
i.e., America to Jamaica, right? One of the things that can happen is that the churches that they attend and the faith that the faith and churches, different organizations that they attend, can also be that pillar for them. So not relying mostly on the schools itself, because of course, as an educator, you know, schools have a lot of different things that they're doing, and
Yeah.
of course, so most students who are in school go because they have to, not because they want to at this point. In high school and in primary school, it's like they say get up and get dressed and go. College
Yes.
is an
Yeah.
option. College is not something that you're mandated to go. It's an option for you. So I think the faith-based organizations, that's one. The youth clubs or youth organizations that surround them,
Yes. Yeah.
they can also facilitate that, where they can do tours. They can do virtual tours. A lot of colleges now have virtual tours. A lot of colleges have recruiters who are designed or designated not only to the United States, but they also have recruiters that are designated for out abroad for them to bring students from the different countries. So I would say that could be something to help. And for the students themselves who are looking to immerse themselves into the American, not to say culture, but for school in here,
College culture. Yes.
for the college culture, if they're really thinking about actually attending college here, I would definitely say to look and to find the college that suits them. If they're not sure which college suits them best, Google works, and also reach out to the recruiters. Send an email. Hey, my name is Blum. I am from Jamaica. I would like to attend your school because of these reasons. Research also goes a long way. Researching and knowing the school and knowing how and what school you want to attend does go a long way.
So young people, as he said, just reiterating what he said, we're living in a virtual world. You have Google, you have YouTube, and most of these colleges actually have Facebook pages and Instagram pages, even TikTok pages, you know, so you can actually get a sense of what it is that you're going into, and you can find the college that is really there for you. All right. Your experience in college now, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So it's twofold, because this is a study abroad entity also, and it's also, for me, I actually studied abroad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The challenges that I face going into college itself, not being prepared like I thought I was. For here, I think back at home they call it a different name, but here we call AP classes, advanced placement classes, for English, reading, math, different subjects. And I was in majority of AP classes here in college, in high school. But then when I started college, my freshman year, I'm as candid as I can be. I was not I was academically prepared, but I was not socially prepared. So the two weaved into each other. So I was presently present, but presently absent at school, if that makes sense.
You want to just zoom in on that? Yeah, okay.
I'll break that down. So presently absent, meaning that in high school, I had a schedule to keep. I had you had to keep a schedule of different regiments. You're structured. In college, you do as you want. It wasn't hey, you have to show up to class. You go to class and realize, instead of going to class, I could go to the social hall and hang out. Or I could go, I could sleep in. I also realized that the time schedule for my classes also was different, where I was a commuting student. I didn't live on campus. So you had two options. Commuting students, you live at home and then take public transportation or drive, whichever way you can, to school. Or when you live on campus, you live on campus. You get up at 8 o'clock and go straight to class. Unfortunately, taking an 8 o'clock class and you live 2 hours away without a car but taking public transportation does get tricky. And when you walk into a class, the professor be like, hey, okay, you're here. So your mind frame becomes, why am I showing up to class if I could just show up free willy? And, you know, you realize that affects your grade. That affects your grade. And that comes up. That comes up very tricky.
I'm just reading your aunt's comment.
That comes up to be very tricky when you realize that you went into college as a student that had grades that you were like, yes, I got this. I'm ready for school. I'm ready
Mm-hmm.
for college. I could
Mm-hmm.
do this.
Yes,
And
yeah,
then
definitely.
when you get that midterm, and you're like, hold up,
Total
what's
different ball
that
game. Yeah.
grade? And then
Yes,
you get your
yeah.
final and you realize the end of your semester when you finish the term, you have F's or D on your transcript. You're like, whoa, or WU's, unofficial withdrawal. It
Yeah.
becomes tricky for a student who was so wrapped around education going into college.
Okay, Shelly, no
And
problem.
then
Yeah.
you realize afterwards, like, well, I was, probably should have focused more or
Mhm.
figured out certain things before coming here.
And let us remind them, CJ, I don't know if this is
Mhm.
the same thing in America, but in Jamaica, you can actually fail. Let's say, for example, you're in third form or fourth form. You can basically fail a subject, and for the most part, you can still matriculate onto the next grade. In college, once you have
Yes,
failed that particular course or so, back to the drawing board. You have to start all
correct.
over. Right. So
And
something
you
that,
have to pay out of pocket. So,
and you have
so
to
it
pay for it again.
depends on
Yeah.
your package or financially package. You may have to pay for that course out of pocket. So after you
Definitely.
fail it,
Definitely.
and the college is not going to look you like, hey, come back. See, they're like, no, come, you have the money, we'll take you. Come back. Come.
Yes.
It's a business.
Right. Definitely. So that is why you have to actually be disciplined. So you see, all of our panelists spoke about it a while ago. Upton alluded to it. Kerry spoke about it, and Shane spoke about it. It's a matter of discipline because they
Very
will
much so.
actually set a timetable, but the professors are not going to be behind you saying go to class. It is basically your own will. So it has to be a matter of discipline. All right. So once it
Correct.
is that you are disciplined, it should actually assist you in doing better. All right. I just got a message from Rochelle. I'm trying to bring her on. Shelly, can you let me know if you're? I sent you an invitation. Can you let me know if you're able to log in? All right. So let's continue in the meanwhile.
Yeah.
Is she here? No, not yet.
No,
All
no,
right.
no.
So, Hopeton, from a spiritual perspective, all right, how do you think your foundation in Grace Baptist Church, Sunday School, Youth Fellowship, do you think that it by any chance prepared you, all right, did it by any chance
So,
prepare you for the college life? I'm just
so
curious, by any
I
chance.
would definitely, no, I would definitely say being grounded and rooted into
Mm-hmm.
into a faith, into your faith, and knowing
Yes.
that you have a outlet to go to whenever
Mm-hmm.
the challenges rise, whenever the struggles happen. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen where in my college where we had our fashion shows, we had different events, right? Before
Yeah.
we usually start a show, we'll go into and so we'll
Prayer.
I would offer it like, hey, once we got on the stage, we'll make sure that we're doing and we're, the regiments. Like, again, you're in college, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, and I would be very candid with everyone, a lot of people
Yeah.
drop off at that moment, like, okay, I forget about the faith part, right?
There
I
we go.
forget about
You better
where
preach.
I started. And as a candid as you can be, you're in college. You're
Yeah.
now an adult in your
Mm-hmm.
mind frame. So you've seen friends and you've seen things. You're like, let me try. Let me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
see. And it's not to say you cannot. It's always great to know what you cannot, where your limits are, and know
Mm-hmm.
how to then look at those limits and stop. So
Mm.
and then you always have that, you go back to the roots. You always have that, if you have that framework already provided for you and that foundation, you could always go back to that foundation. Like, hey, I may have fallen short at this end, but I could go back to where that foundation was built to then move forward.
So, what are some things that you did to
Uh,
strengthen your faith and that
so
to anchor that foundation while you were in college, while you
you
had the
could,
option of going to the dances and the hall and all of that? How did you manage? Yeah.
so you have what you have, what you could call is great friends, right? You have people that are in your corner. That's one.
Yeah.
You
Deep
have
and alley. Mm-hmm.
your churches your church that you actually go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to your church or finding well, up here was different for me than back home where you had Grace Baptist. You run, everyone's there for you. Here it's
Yeah.
different. You're
Yeah.
finding your own church, your own niche into what church you go to or what people you surround yourself with, and you realize when you realize the stronger you are as a person or in your faith or in your belief, people drop. And it's okay for them to drop because that means you're learning how to transition to a better you. It's okay to lose that friend or those friendships because at the end of the day, reason, season, lifetime. And you make those attempts as you go along. And you make those adjustments as you go along. Because not every time you sit there and say, hey, this friend is a friend, you realize that some friends are false, right? And a lot of times you have what for my college, we had a library, right? Library is essentially what a library should be. But then you had a library where you had your study rooms and you had your chat rooms where people would just sit, go in that part of the library to just sit there and talk. And they're sitting there and talk all day. Or in my college, they had downstairs where the fourth floor was, the first floor, where you go to class, you come out of class, you're sitting there, the people are sitting there playing cards all day.
Yes.
And you have the friends that are like, hey, you have class to go to. What are you doing? Let's go. You have different avenues that you can find to ground and make sure the grassroots that you receive or those ground foundations that you had growing up, you could go back to. And that's where you pick up or you find people like-minded to yourself.
All right. Instagram is going to kick us out, and I want to be able to bring in Rochelle. So I just want your final word, Hopeton, your advice to the young people who are looking on, who want to study even out here. It doesn't matter if they want to study abroad. What's your advice to them?
I would definitely tell anyone who's go to college to understand that it's college. It's an experience, right? It's something that you are choosing to do. So be presently present there, not presently absent. Presently present, as I always say, is to be fully invested in what you're doing. You may not know what you want to do going into college. That's why it's called foundational courses. You have mentors that's there. I would say latch on to a mentor that you see that I've always said, you see someone in a shoe that you want to fit, speak to that person. Hey, you're in this position. How did you get here? What courses you have done? What did you do to get to this position? And figure out how to then make your way or work your way to become that person.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
All right? And be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Don't forget who you are. Don't lose yourself in the process.
Because a lot of people tend to go to cut. That's a whole other discussion, you know.
That's another take.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people go to college to find themselves. But I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I mean, some persons aren't really conscious of who they are, you know, and that foundation actually goes. Yeah. So we have to pick up with that. But thank you so very much, Hopeton.
Have a good one, everyone.
I appreciate it. Good to see you again. And big up to Hopeton's fan club as well. I noticed everybody came out with their pom-poms and cheerleaders, everything. All right. Thank you very much, Hopeton.
All right. Have a good one, Molly.
I tried to bring in...
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Speak it into being, brother. Receiving it. All right. Little more, CJ. Take care.
All
right. Let us see if I can bring on Mrs. Rochelle Bryant. I just sent her an invitation. So let us pray. Believers, intercessors, let us pray that it works this time. Yeah! Shelly, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. All right, so let me just make a disclaimer. Guys, Instagram, we have 10 minutes, and Instagram may actually throw us out. If that happens, please, I'm going to ask you guys, please, to just hop on back on the live again. I will be back here, and we'll continue the discussion with Rochelle. Now, just a little information. Those of you who saw the poster and you thought that was a typo, it was not a typo. Miss Bryant grew up and turned big woman power and turned Mrs. Bryant. Love to see it. What's up, Shelly? How you doing?
I'm good, Rose. How are you?
Okay, great. All right, so let me just get straight into it, Shelly. Your situation also is a little different from the other persons who were here. So you did your first degree here at the University of the West Indies, and one of the panelists bashed the University of the West Indies. We now call no name. I'm joking. I feel bad because me used to go there too. But she was kind of right. But again, that's another show. So you did your first degree here. Then you did your second degree at Howard University. So you're better able to do a comparison. Compare them for me. What was it like for you in terms of the differences, similarities? Which was better? Talk to us.
All right. So I'd say just in terms of academia, just how different there were. I think grading system for one was very different. We
Mm-hmm.
like, I think A's roughly start from what, about 70s or so. Like we had A.
70s, yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like the type of work you had to do to get an A was a little bit more intense because so coming from that standpoint to A's here, A's are like 90 to 100. So I was like, oh boy, I'm never going to get an A here. Like how is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what I recognize, I think, from an academia standpoint, you could always do extra credit or something else, and they were very lenient in terms of how you'd be able to make up for those things. I don't think I experienced that very
Okay.
much, so that was different, and it was a shock for me, honestly. Yeah, so they were like, okay, well, do this for extra credit, and those were things that I would sometimes experience, like some parts
Really?
were struggling, and I'm like, this is college, this is what we do. But so that was different. That was different for me for sure. So I feel like it
Okay.
was in terms of the regime and just how we were doing academia. Not to bash Howard or the US system, but usually
Yeah,
also
yeah.
talk about it's generally easier moving from, and I would say that I would agree with that in terms of the kind of work that we were having to do in terms of how we were tested. So like sometimes in Jamaica you'd have to do an essay or something in a class test.
Yeah.
Like I found like
Mm-hmm.
like that were more like for take home. Like I wouldn't have to be sitting down writing an essay in a class assignment. That would be more of a homework thing that you're like, okay, go home and do this and take more time. And I think when I talk to others too, it seems like that's just the general system
Oh,
that some of these US colleges. At least that's my
interesting.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Rochelle, you went to Howard, which is known as what do you call it again, Shelley?
HB
Historic, gone.
History College and University, right?
Historically Black University
College and University, CU,
College.
HBC. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So one would have thought, Shelley, that if it is that you're going to a university of that nature, the
Mm-hmm.
culture shock would not necessarily be as great as probably Kiris who went to China. But I'm sure it existed just the same. Can
I
you
was
give me some examples if
I,
that was the case for you?
it kind of existed somewhat. I'd say like I saw a lot of black people around me for sure.
Yeah.
But also a lot of Caribbean people, which I some just in my throat today. Excuse me.
Just drink some water.
Right.
You have any on hand? Oh.
But like I was
Push,
saying, like
push.
it was just I think the culture shock for me was more because it was an HBCU, just how much was pushed or talked about. I don't think I experienced that in Jamaica. Like, it's not a big thing for us to talk about race as heavily or things like that. So just so built around race, and for those who were marginalized, like it was just a huge part of what hope was. And so I think I had a different understanding of the race and the black experience in America because that was definitely not mine at home. So
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was kind of a shocker there.
There is no doubt, Rochelle, that studying at a university, especially abroad, is something that is going to weigh heavily on your mind. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are talking about anxiety and depression in this day and age, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I used to hear it and kind of roll my eyes
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds like it's just a fad everybody's talking about, but it's a real thing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking back, it's just that I didn't have the words for it back then when I was in college, but it's a real thing. The anxiety, the depression, not knowing if you're going to actually be as successful, not wanting to disappoint your friends and your family, and maybe even the challenge of the actual thing that you were studying, because you were doing speech pathology.
Right.
From a spiritual perspective now, Shelly, talk to me. How did you wade through the water?
From a spiritual, yeah.
Yeah.
So, spiritual perspective, it was important to find a church home, like a church home that just kind of shared similar beliefs and similar values. I think as like the spiritual attacks really came, or like, and I would say when I say spiritual attacks, I think that can take several different forms.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
mental attacks of like, can I do this, and not having the mental fortitude to feel like I'd be able to make it through. That sometimes that was an attack that kind of just spilled over into other things, like was I reading my Bible as much in that time, because it's when those things happen you should be getting more in the word, but sometimes it's just so hard to motivate yourself in those
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
And like even finances, everybody kind of touched on finances, but sometimes that was just something that was also difficult. That's something I'm very honest about. Like it was not easy because you don't, as an international student, you don't necessarily get some of the, you can't get federal aid. You'd have to find funding elsewhere. And there are ways around that, yes, but that sometimes wore heavily, and I felt like I had to work a little bit harder, and all that kind of started to affect the spiritual walk and the spiritual life. So for me, it was important to try and find a church where we had a community for college students, and that was the First Baptist Church of Glenarden. They sent us to college, was to us at college, and they picked us up and brought us there. And we had like a college check-in, college time. So we were just able to be open about what we're struggling with spiritually. They brought in different speakers and stuff like that. And I think that really helped me to kind of stay on track in my spiritual journey, because it's hard, and there are definitely different attacks.
So for those persons who, because of course, unless you've been living under a rock, we know that we're in a pandemic. So for those persons who are studying, let me see if I can ask this properly. The persons who are going to be studying at university, even if it is locally, and they have to actually do their classes virtually, so they don't have the opportunity to have buses like First Baptist did to send, what would be your advice or suggestion to them, the persons who have to actually be in school currently in a pandemic? Or we know, for example, there are some of our young people who will be going to school September. I just saw Deidre, she's one of them, who will be going to college in September in a pandemic. How would you advise those young people?
I mean, this is just a whole new world, a whole new ball game. But when I think of that, because of try and fit into the world we're in virtually, then if you're doing school virtually, what else can you do virtually for church? Is there a WhatsApp group that you can join where you're getting daily motivation? Is there you can join, like, can you and your friends probably do something like that? Is there like a small Bible study where you probably, without breaking the rules of whatever is going on, can you find tours come together for a Bible study? I think those would be some good things to kind of start to do to maintain that spirituality. And also, it's important to be around people. We know that the church is not just about the building, it's about the body. But I also want to express that, discipline within your spiritual walk is important. Like, are you taking the time to maybe do a Bible plan or something? Easier said than done, because I have been there, and I'm just going to be honest about that. I don't always feel motivated to do that, but in those times when I've had those moments where things have been rough and I've been able to pick up the Bible and or have a certain plan that just encourage you in ways you wouldn't even imagine. So I'd say things like that would probably be helpful while the world is crazy and things are virtual, because God is constant. And that's one thing we can count on. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm just going to segue for us a second. How did you manage in terms of the homesickness? So let me go to that. That's the question I wanted to ask before spirituality, but I just remembered that.
Yeah.
So how did you manage in terms of being homesick? Because, sorry to quote you, Shelley, what I was telling the young people is that the ones who came on last week, they were speaking about challenges that they faced, and homesickness was one of the greatest ones. But at the end of the day, you remember we're in Kingston, so you can have a weekend, we can run back down to country and get some Sunday dinner, or, holidays, but you're so many miles away. How did you manage with that in terms of being homesick?
So I think for my situation, because, all right, so going to school at Howard, it was such a large Caribbean community, and Jamaica, and then it was like right next to Maryland, so there was some family there. So I still experienced the homesickness, but when that happened, I mostly tried to see if I could get a weekend away to like aunties around and get some good Jamaican food, and they would like pack me up and send me. It was a blessing to be in that situation. So that is kind of how I coped through it. And then sometimes, honestly, I would just play the music. Like if I just needed to hear some sister Bob, I'd be
Bob Marley. Yeah. Did you say Sister Scully?
That's what I did say.
Okay. I'm not judge you.
If I could just no, yeah. But
no problem.
All the different genres and stuff. That kind of too. So yeah, if you can find a support system that is helpful. So for me, that was the Caribbean community. some Jamaicans who I met, Trinidadians, Barbadians, like whoever it was that kind of represented parts of our culture and just reminded me of certain things, then that's who I tried to hang out with during those times. That kind of helped a lot.
Let us wrap up, Shelly, with some advice to the young people. And I'm just going to leave the floor open for you. Advice to them as it relates, yes, sir, as it relates to, of course, studying abroad or even locally.
Okay. So reiterating what I think some of the other panelists had said, studying in general just requires some level of discipline, knowing what you want to do, having the plan, deciding that, you know, you're all in and you're motivated to really try and work on these goals that you have. I think that's very important. For studying abroad, I would say community is very important, and don't be afraid to let others know what you're struggling with. And that might be a financial struggle, if it's a spiritual struggle, whatever kind of battle you're facing, you're not alone, and it's okay to seek help in those situations. I think sometimes we kind of feel like we can't share what we're going through, and that might be for various reasons, but I found that, you know, you might never know who's there and might be going through something similar or has a resource for you. So I'd say, if you're in college, if you're struggling with a subject, find somebody. If you're struggling with spirituality, find somebody who you trust and you can really talk to help. And I think those things are very important for studying and getting through.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Rochelle, for joining us. And on behalf of the Grace Baptist Youth Fellowship, I want to thank you so much. We want you to also know how much we're proud of you. We're really proud of you. And I want to thank you for really holding your head high and really serving as a good example, especially for the young ladies of the church. You know, want to keep it up and continue to do it. And one thing with you, Rochelle, you've never forgotten us back here, but forgotten us here at home, and we really appreciate that, and you continue to serve as a mentor, so wanted to keep it up, and thank you very much. All right,
thank
you, Rochelle. All right,
everybody,
okay.
So,
all right,
thanks you.
So ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our program. Want to thank you all for being here with us, and thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our panelists, especially Dr. Keris Foster. I want to thank Mr. Hopeton Allen. I want to thank Shane Williams, and we also want to thank Rochelle for, you know, imparting some words of wisdom and advice to us. All right, so until next time, Instagram is about to kick us out, so I have to go, and to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, thank you for making it College Check-In. On behalf of everybody at the Grace Youth Ministry, I am Rolando Smith signing out. Oh, but before we do that, if Instagram gives us time, let me just find out from those of you who are here with us on the live, do you by any chance have 1 or 2 questions that you would like to ask any of the panelists before they actually kick us out? Thank you. Auntie Ermin says, proud of our young people. Absolutely. Any questions from anybody on the live? Any of our young people who want to study abroad or even study here locally? Any question for any of the panelists? Hi, Shanoy. Thank you. Love you too. All right, I'm seeing, let me just go through the comments. God bless you. God bless you too, Auntie Stacy. Thank you so much. All right, good. All right, so if there are no other questions or no questions, again, we want to thank all of our panelists. Let me just remind you who they were. We have Naval Flight Officer, Mr. Shane Williams, and he actually studied at the Embry-Riddle University in the United States of America. We also had, thank you very much, Philip. Thank you, boss. Bless you. We also had Dr. Keris Foster, who studied at the Anhui University, Medical University in China. We also had Ms. Rochelle, Mrs. Rochelle Bryant, speech language pathologist, and she studied at the Howard University. And we had also Mr. Hopeton Allen, who is an academic manager / advisor at the York College, CUNY York College in New York. which is also the university that he went to. All right? So thank you very much, guys, for participating. We really appreciate it. And of course, send us a message if there is anything in particular that you'd like us to focus on in the different series, the different episodes to come. If there's something in particular you want us to focus on, let us know. All right? So send a comment in our DMs. And that is it. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. And thank you for tuning in. God bless you all.